And so doing that was really big. And then turning around and taking it now down to where we had, a dozen of the 23 guys. So we had 12 guys from America on that team. And then you mix them in with those guys like Junior Vivai, Mark Offerdahl, and people like that, that...
Corey Makelim's playing over here. Well, trying to get a deal over here now if his visa gets cleared to play for Sheffield, isn't he, as well? He's another player we remember from the World Cup.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a hell of an athlete. But, when we get those kind of guys, and the good thing about that is that domestic, the way it works for us, and I think coming back from that World Cup is it was so big because now they got a ton of experience, they got exposure, they got all those things that they needed to get. Now they come back here, and now like David Ulch was on that team. He's going to be the coach for Tampa,
Of course, I remember him, yeah.
Yeah, Nick Newland, that's another guy. Nick Newland looks like he's rolling downhill. He was born and raised in Wisconsin, like in that whole corn-fed area, as we call it here in the state. He's a big boy. Like he can run around. He doesn't have as big a noggin as like Sam Burgess does, but he's got a big, he doesn't have that big a head, but he's a big body to move around, and he's now the coach with Atlanta, and he's going to have experience. So those kind of guys really help develop our league. So I think the good thing is 18, 19, and 20, those next 3 years, we're going to have so many guys coming through that are going to, as they come onto the field, the biggest thing now is when those guys come onto the field for their domestic season, somebody new who may have just showed up just now, when they walk out there, they're going to realize, wait a minute, I'm playing next to somebody who played in a World Cup.
Which is exciting. It makes people realize that it's close to them as well, doesn't it?
Exactly. They work harder. So now, whether we do the same thing next time and you have, say, 11 heritage and 12 domestic, or you have whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you're going to have a deep player pool that will be trying to qualify this year and everything else. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be fantastic. I think we're doing it the right way and building it the right way. And eventually one day we may have all homegrown players. But I would never disparage our heritage players we've had because they've gotten us to where we are now. And then, going forward, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, with people playing on either side of the Hull divide. Hull's one of the biggest cities in the world of rugby league, so that's very exciting. So I think, I'm with you there. You need to encourage kind of a good balance. I remember that 2013 World Cup over here. I saw a couple of the USA games in person and saw all the rest on the television. And even though most of the team, like you say, half of them probably had never even been to America, but they played with a lot of pride in the jersey, and certainly they belted out the national anthem and all that sort of stuff. So they certainly were happy to be there and didn't treat it as a bit of a nice little holiday for themselves. They took it seriously.
Yeah, hell yeah, they did. I mean, that's the thing. As someone, I look at it as my biggest thing is whenever I look at it, if I see the heritage players who are dedicating themselves to the U.S. national, I mean, that's what the without getting into any political stuff, because I do not want to talk about that. America, the way I see America is it's a melting pot, and it's a place where everybody can get involved, everybody can have fun, everybody can, you can find a place in America. So the heritage players, they found their place on our national team, and then they did their role. They played the proper role of representing America well.
So the qualifiers have been announced, haven't they? Sort of loosely announced, because no fixtures have been confirmed, have they? But basically, Chile are going to be entering into the mix along with Jamaica and Canada and the USA. Those three have been at it for a while, playing each other in round robin tournaments to get into World Cups for a dozen or so years. But I don't know anything about the Chile team, but I'm guessing you're quite confident that USA, with their a little bit more established domestic setup, can get through those end of years qualifiers quite comfortably against the other countries around you.
I'd like to say so. That being said, I mean, the way I look at Chile is like, you have no idea who they are. Like, we don't know anything about them. We know that they're a first year qualifying team, so they may not be anything, and I don't mean that in a negative way. They may be like where we were or any other country the first time they qualify or they try, where they're just trying to figure out what it's all about. And then, they figure it out going forward. That may be who they are. They may bring in their own heritage players, though. I mean, there's a lot of Latin Heat players that may have that Chilean background that may be able to help out their side with the qualifiers. And that's a dangerous sight. So, they may be super easy, but you're not really sure what you're going to get with them. They're an unknown commodity. Canada, obviously, that's a rivalry game for us, so it doesn't matter It doesn't matter how good they are leading up to it or not. I've laughed and joked on here on the show, and I call them the Trailer Park Boys, and I tease, and I love them to death. And I actually plan on, I've been trying to talk to the Ravens, the female Canadian side. I want to talk to the Wolfpack. Anybody from Canada that wants exposure, on our show, we're gonna talk about it. But that will be Canada Hate Week that week. That will be a week where we don't like them. But they're going to be a tough game. And then Jamaica scares the shit out of me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't cuss. Maybe I don't even know if
we swear on our show, don't we? Right, every time. Not a problem.
Jamaica scares me because even though they don't have, nobody knows about them and they pop up every couple of years. But they've got a deep Olympic pool, so because they have such a deep Olympic talent pool, it's just a matter of time until they find 2 or 3 guys that want to try out league. Yeah. That really big problem stopping, and that scares the hell out of me.
It's ball skills that I think Jamaica have kind of often not quite got there with. They've had a few players who've played around the London Rugby League scene over here and stuff that they've been able to call into the squad over the years, but they've not necessarily been consistent enough in taking advantage of field position. But if you give them some open space out wide, they can rip off some long range tries.
Yeah, man, they're dangerous out there. They're the in my mind they're kind of like the drunk uncle that shows up that has sworn that he doesn't drink anymore kind of guy. You don't maybe he's okay. Maybe you can have no problem with him, but then maybe, just maybe, he actually ends up being a problem at your party, that kind of thing. That could be what Jamaica is to us.
He wins the dance off and then and then knocks over your chocolate fountain and causes chaos.
That's it. That's exactly right. We don't know. I worry about Jamaica just because of that.
Well, one of your shows that you got to do kind of early in your run of shows, because you're absolutely banging the episodes out, aren't you, Nate? But one of the shows you did was with the new head coach of the USA Hawks, wasn't it? Was that a great experience for you?
That was great, and we've talked since then. We're launching. Launching sounds like it's epic, like it's gonna, like it's something special. We're starting. We're starting a new weekly wrap-up show that's going to come out hopefully every Tuesday. We're actually going to play this one for Tuesday for that, just because we can talk about it a little bit. But that one's going to be, about the league as it goes. So we talked to him again. But whenever I got to talk to Coach Ruckerson, we talked about his expectations and, just how he sees the team going forward and everything else. And I think that was a great episode as far as from the standpoint of having him so accessible. I think that's really big.
Of course, yeah.
Coach McDermott was awesome. We said it then and I'll say it now. It was great to have him, whether, if you're in England and you don't like Leeds, well, then maybe that's a different thing. But from a standpoint of us as one of those nations that, you can come through the emerging nation, or you can call us one that's here that's just trying, or whatever you want to call us, having somebody like him to give us that experience is huge. And then now we have a guy who lives here full time, coaches one of our teams, sees our players on a on a week out basis. He's going to see.
He's at the Jacksonville Axemen, isn't he? He was he finished his playing career there, I think, didn't he? After he played for a few years for the Salford Reds over here, Salford Red Devils, City Reds as they were at the time. So that's where people might recognise Sean Rutgerson's name from. But sorry, you were saying.
No. That's the honest truth. I mean, that's the good thing. There's a little bit of name recognition there. In my mind, somebody like that who's had, he got to learn from Coach McDermott, and he coaches every year with the Jacksonville Axemen. He's around the national team, so he already has all of those things that we need. And then he steps in and he takes over that head coaching role, and he already knows a lot of the guys, so he doesn't have to start over fresh. I think for us that is massive going forward.
Well, another thing that he has as well is experience of being at a World Cup as one of these underdogs, because he played in the ill-fated 2000 World Cup, one of the lowlights for the international game, I felt at the time back then. But he played in that World Cup for South Africa, so he's got experience of playing, being at a World Cup as one of the underdogs as well. So I'm sure he'll be able to bring all that sort of experience into your team. I think the final thing I really want to get your take on from the SLP end of things to what we're interested in over here is the big thing about what's happening with bringing an American team, Toronto style, into our league structure. New York, obviously, the front runners with lots of publicity behind their bid. There's been people go out and check out the bid for its validity and that sort of stuff. Is that something you're keen for and excited about?
Oh man, I'm all over that. Like I'm so excited for that. I'm so pumped. I love Toronto, what they're doing up there. I'm really appreciative that we have them in North America. It's great. And then we'll have another one here in North America, this one in America. You put them in New York and you're looking at, like, if anybody, some of your people may remember, some of your fans may remember if they're, if they're a little bit older, but the New York Cosmos that we had when we had Pelé and we had Johan Cruyff and all those guys play soccer or football, as you would say, in New York. Like, I feel like this team can be our version of the Cosmos, except the league can actually sustain because they're coming into your league. But New York is...
And the money that they'll be getting paid isn't quite the same level that you would have had to have been paying people like George Best and Pelé and people like that. Just on the bar bills alone for those guys.
Listen, that was, right now, right as we got ready to start, we just saw where Sam Burgess gave a shout out, a cheers to the bid in New York. And then you had Sean Johnson a couple weeks ago. Those guys saying that is huge. But, so the best thing about it, if you think about it, or this is how I look at it from the American perspective. They're coming in, they're building a new team, they're putting in a new product in a city that loves to see new things and loves to try things out and taste them and test them out. And it's massive, but they're coming into something that's established. They're coming into into the Super League. And I know that you guys have your own little issues that you deal with over there and all that kind of stuff, but you're bringing in a team that benefits your side as much as it does ours. From our side, it gives us a legitimacy. It gives us a team, we can wear, if you go on their website or if you look at any of their social media stuff, and I know they've kind of gone a little quiet, but I know that they're still out there and they're doing their things. It looks like those iconic colors, blue and orange, like the city's known for, and that's huge. I think putting a team like that there does wonders for us, because now when people see that and they go to a game, they'll immediately get done with that game. They'll type Rugby League in America in their phone, or they'll type in Rugby League or whatever they put in, and all of a sudden it's going to bring them to websites. It's going to bring them to different things. They're going to realize that there are teams in the local area. It doesn't hurt our brand, and I think it builds yours, because there's a lot of, let's be really honest, there's a lot of money in New York. So it benefits yours. And then that gives you guys an excuse. Look, let's just be honest. It gives you guys an excuse to have a stag party here in the States and be able to watch a little bit of Rugby League in New York.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that people don't necessarily like about the international expansion, because we all come from our small little northern towns where, we scrape together paycheck or what have you. And the idea that we as fans have to go across the world to watch our teams play, but really it's not necessarily for the fan who can watch everything they want to watch on the television as it stands, and maybe once every 3 or 4 years go on the jolly abroad. But it's about getting more exposure and more commercial viability into the sport, and that's why I like the crossover deals. It's the Toronto one being the first ever transatlantic sports franchise that's really taken off in the way it has. It's been a really cool journey to watch, even if you see what the coach gets up to after games and what the players get up to in games, and think there's kind of kicking themselves in the teeth from a publicity point of view. I'm sure their own fans don't feel that way about it. But the chance to... What we don't have in our game, in our country, is a lot of money. That's a serious thing that's lacking for us. And people question, like, the talent pool isn't there anymore and those sorts of things. But if you've got money, the talent will want to play your sport rather than a different sport.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I would say this to your fans, or whatever you want to say. I would say this. Feel very England-esque right now. The rain is starting to pour here, so it's wonderful. But here's the big thing that I would say. Like, if you think about it from the standpoint of, you're saying you have money, you don't have a talent pool or whatever. You still have a very exciting game. Like when you watch, like, the NRL, I think they market the game better than your side of the pond does. So it lends itself to a very exciting, exciting game to watch and all those things. But having said that, the product that you guys put out on the field, meaning like when they go out and they play,
it's more fun to watch. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so much fun to watch. Like when I watch Wigan or St. Helens or Leeds or anybody, when I watch Hull, it doesn't matter who I watch. You guys are putting in plays all over the field. You're putting in an offensive flair. And that translates to America. So you're right. You may not have that money, but the way I look at this bid, if it goes through, and I look at from my standpoint as a fan, as someone who's coached sports, for many, many years, but from a fan's perspective, you're going to bring your exciting game into our money pool. And your Northern England fans that, they're talking about they don't have money or whatever. Okay, maybe that's right, kind of. But going forward, you have